Welcome into the November 14th episode of the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. An emotional weekend here at Scotiabank Arena. They split the games on the ice with a loss to the Pittsburgh Penguins, but a win over the Vancouver Canucks. But some pretty incredible moments off the ice. Toronto had a tremendous ceremony for Borje Salming on Saturday. And then obviously hosted the Hall of Fame class that are in town this weekend with the Hall of Fame game on Friday. We'll break all that down and more coming up on today's episode of the Locked On Leafs podcast.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Leafs podcast, one-stop shop for all things Leafs. I'm your host, Mike DiStefano from TSN 1050 Toronto Radio, also known as Al's brother on TSN's Overdrive and TSN 1050's Leafs Lunch. Joining me is my co-host, Dave Morassutti from Sportsnet, also a writer for the NHLPA. Locked On Leafs is a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast, so be sure to subscribe for free wherever you get your podcast from. You can also now catch us up on video format on YouTube. Just search up Locked On Leafs, hit subscribe, and get new content delivered directly to you each and every day, Monday through Friday, every morning. It's all Leafs all the time. Man, what an incredibly emotional weekend it was. Like, first they had all the for the Hall of Fame game, they had obviously the Hall of Famers, right? Congratulations to Roberto Luongo, the Sedin twins, Alfredson, Herb Carnegie, and Riikka Salonen, all going into the Hall of Fame. Tonight, technically, is the induction ceremony, but the Hall of Fame game on Friday was fantastic, and Borje Salming was able to make the trip over to Toronto and be part of the Hall of Fame class, which I think was just super important, given the fact that it's so Swedish. It's so Swedish heavy, Dave. And the fact that he was there, I thought was just outstanding. And I don't know about you, but my eyeballs were certainly sweating a little bit watching that whole thing kind of go down and watching Daryl Sittler break down a little bit.
Yeah. As soon as Daryl Sittler started to break down, that's where I kind of lost it a little bit there. Because if you didn't read, Daryl Sittler has been right there with Borje Salming as soon as he found out the diagnosis. It's such a tough situation, and the fact he was there, incredible that he was even there to begin with, because he's going through so much, and he took the time to be there for his fellow countrymen, right? And so, and I'm glad the Leafs did it on both nights. Hall of Fame is that's for the Hall of Famers, and I'm glad that they were okay, he's gonna be there. There's gonna be a moment. But to also make sure that they did it on the Saturday just for him, I thought that was so special and so important. And the organization understanding that too, dressing the all Swedish lineup to start the game, having William Nylander do the ceremonial puck drop, the Leafs did that perfectly. You could not have done it any better than how they did it this weekend.
Yeah, they did a tremendous job, and you're right. Credit to Sheldon Keefe for starting the all Swedish lineup. I'll be honest, I didn't realize how many Swedes were on the team. I guess the fact that you could start all 6 guys on the ice in a Maple Leafs uniform were Swedish players. I don't know why I never realized it, but I'm like, oh damn, there is a lot of Swedes on this team.
Somebody brought that idea up though. I saw somebody's yo, start all the Swedes.
Well, it makes sense. It totally makes sense, right? Just for your first shift. Yeah, of course. Start all the Swedes. It makes a lot of sense. So it was Engvall, Nylander, Järnkrok, and then Sandin and Liljegren on the back end. And then, which we got to get into in a moment, but Erik Källgren, who was starting in game 2 of a back-to-back, started both games for them, but did end up getting the start for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But it was honestly just such a touching moment, seeing Borje Salming get the ovation he did Friday and Saturday, and the Leafs did, as they typically do, they're a first-class organization, a tremendous job with the entire ceremony. So great job by the Maple Leafs. Give them some stick taps on that one, and keep fighting the good fight, Borja. Obviously, it was kind of tough to see what was going on there a lot of the time, just because you knew he was. I mean, the man's struggling, but the fact that he was able to get over here, we were able to see him, and people were able to, show their love and gratitude. I guarantee you, he loved every second of that. It was weird though, right? Like it was beautiful to watch and tough to watch at the same time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that really, like, you're so happy in the moment, then you're, like, realizing what it really means, you know, for not just him, but, his family was there, and you saw the reaction for them because the you don't know how many of these moments he's gonna have left, right? Like, this disease is just so unpredictable, right? He's already lost his ability to speak. You can see that some of the movement, like with Daryl Sittler holding his arm up, that was so heartbreaking. And then you see like Matt Sundin, like you like it's not just for him what it meant to him, but it's also the people who have been going through this with him to be able to have these memories, right? These are the memories that they're going to remember more, and hopefully try to remember these memories more than the struggles he's going through. And that's why it's so important to do things like this.
Yeah, completely agree. It's a really good point, buddy. All right, we'll take a quick break and then we'll get back and we'll break down the games and talk a little bit about the Hall of Fame class that's going in tonight. But we certainly had to get into the whole Borje Salming celebration for sure. All right, before we move on though, let's talk a little bit about one of today's show sponsors, and that's Simply Safe. If you've thought about securing your home with home security but have been putting it off, you want to listen up because right now Locked On Leafs listeners can order the number one rated Simply Safe home security system for 50% off. It's their biggest offer of the year, and you won't want to miss out. Simply Safe was named the best home security system of 2022 by U.S. News and World Report a third year in a row. And an emergency 24/7 professional monitoring agents use Fast Protect technology exclusively from Simply Safe to capture critical evidence and verify the threat is real so you can get priority police response. With the top-rated Simply Safe app, stay in complete control of your system anytime, anywhere, arm or disarm, unlock for a guest, access your cameras, adjust system settings, all that with Simply Safe. Don't miss your chance to save big on the only security system that I recommend. And remember, you're getting 50% off any new Simply Safe system at simplysafe.com/lockedonnhl. This is their biggest discount of the year, so you will not want to wait. That's simplysafe.com/lockedonnhl. There's no safe like Simply Safe. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano with my co-host Dave Morassutti. Maple Leafs coming off of a split this weekend, a loss to the Pittsburgh Penguins, a victory over the Vancouver Canucks. We'll start with Friday. We'll go chronologically. Start with Friday against the Pittsburgh Penguins. What are your thoughts on that game, Dave?
A real that was a little bit of a disappointing game considering how they lost the game, right? Like the goal that Eric Shalgren allowed to like that eventually stood as the game winner was a disappointing one.
Oh yeah,
Justin Hall, the play he made on on like the Zucker goal and how he played Evgeny Malkin, I'm like, maybe don't play Evgeny Malkin like that. Don't give him the puck so easily. Like just those sort of mistakes are still like they continue to be so like backbreaking for the Leafs. Like Sheldon Keefe, I don't know, many of you saw his reaction on the bench when like they're giving up the puck. Like Sandin had a play like that where he just made a lazy pass and ended up in a turnover. Like he's clearly getting frustrated by them not learning from their mistakes.
yeah,
But
15 giveaways in that game.
yeah, after they did 17 giveaways a few days ago against the Vegas Golden Knights, like you're giving, it's not even that the other team is beating you, it's that you're giving them the opportunities to beat you. And that's the frustrating part. Um, I will say, Zach Aston Reese getting the goal against his former team. So it's a nice little bonus there. But yeah, like the Leafs have got to start learning their lessons because good teams are going to take advantage. I know the Penguins have had their struggles this season, but still the Pittsburgh Penguins, they still have good players on their team, and they're going to make you pay for mistakes that you're going to make on the regular. So They gotta clean that up. Otherwise, you're gonna be splitting a lot of games down the stretch.
How much do you think that loss not sitting well with Shalgren went into him maybe demanding the net for the Saturday game against Vancouver?
I think it speaks. I think there's a he was really hard on himself, and yeah, I like that. I
Very.
like that they went back with him. Let's see if you can prove that you can step up and get the win after. It really does. It really does test what the mental capability of Shalgren. Can he bounce back from a goal like that, a loss like that, on a back to back? You don't see goaltenders make back to back starts a lot, and even when he was in the HL, I don't think he was doing that on the regular either. So I actually was a little surprised they went with him on the back to back, but then you know what I was thinking, like, they play Saturday and they don't play again until Tuesday. So it's not like, they have a really short window of games. I didn't mind it, and I like that they gave him that chance to earn the bounce back performance.
I'll say this: I was definitely quite shocked to see that they were going to roll the dice there. Just because if he goes down now, like you're looking at Petruzzelli as like this team's number one, right? I mean, yeah, Matt Murray should be healthy, and he might even be ready to go for when they go and play Pittsburgh on Tuesday. And maybe that's what they decided. Let him play, former team. He was supposed to do that the last time he suited up against Ottawa. We all know what happened. Hasn't really played a game since, but now he might have that opportunity. But, if Shalgren plays a second game, overextends himself, and then ends up getting hurt in that game by playing back-to-back nights for the first time in his NHL career, it just seemed like a little bit too risky for me. I mean, obviously the risk paid off. They won the game. He did not end up getting hurt. But I think I don't know, like Petruzzelli could have potentially also won that game. Like Toronto against Vancouver seemed to be
A good
they
spot.
controlled a large majority of that game, and as they should, right? They are the more superior team, and they absolutely should go in there and mop the floor with them. The score I don't think was as indicative as it could have been. 3-2 final probably could have been a little bit bigger than that. Toronto had to come back from behind, and guess who? Guess who made a little in-game wager when Toronto went down 2-0 to come back and win the game in regulation?
Oh,
This guy.
and thank you, Vancouver, for showing that you're worse than Toronto holding leads in a game as well. Like,
Well, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, they did. But they had a really strong um, second period in that game. Third period was pretty good too. But are we now Jamie Benn stands or what?
I mean, I was at a wedding and I had the game recorded. All of a sudden, I'm getting a bunch of texts saying Jordy Ben, the
Jordy
goat.
Ben, sorry, Jordy Ben.
Well, no, this was Jamie Ben in disguise. You didn't know that? Like,
Well, first of all, what was he doing down there by the net? Like that is a good
that
question
was
that I
Sheldon
have.
Keefe's ultimate master plan. They're not going to see you. It's brilliant because you're not going to see it coming. Like, who's going to expect Jordy Ben to be at the net front on a rebound? Not me. It was just so funny when I watched back at this game and I'm like, yeah, what the heck was he doing down there in the first place? But look, goal scorers know where to go to the net, when to go to the net, and he took that opportunity there. What? It was obviously surprising to see that TJ Brody was taken out, and you're like, oh, like just you were getting like a little concerned there. But
Mhm.
this is what they brought guys like Jordy Ben in to do. If something were to happen, you need a guy that's going to be able to step in and fill in when needed. And what surprised me more was that he eventually got the top pairing duties with Morgan Riley. Right? It wasn't that he was just playing low in the lineup. Like, Sheldon Keefe ultimately decided, all right, we gotta change things up because Riley and Liljegren weren't having their best game together, and they've been pretty good up until this point. So I did like that he made that switch and realized something needed to be different. And good on Jordy Ben to be able to step up in his first game in that situation.
Yeah, those guys they played together 10 minutes 16 seconds on ice and 80% Corsi rating together outshot their opponents 10-3 when they were out on the ice. A 74 expected goals differential and 11-4 in scoring chances. Only gave up 2 high danger chances when out there on the ice, and 3 defensive zone faceoffs. So it's not like they were necessarily sheltered either. So pretty good stuff out of Jordy Ben. Absolutely made a good impression on Leafs Nation in his debut performance as the Toronto Maple Leafs, with them defeating the Vancouver Canucks 3-2. But like it's just the whole comeback fashion, right? The fact that they were able to come back the way that they did, it made it very, very exciting. Austin Matthews ends up scoring a goal. Pierre Engvall, as much hate as he got, I thought Pierre Engvall was one of the better Maple Leafs in that game against the Vancouver Canucks. I don't know if it was, a Swedish thing, like if it was because there were so many Swedes in the building, you wanted to show off for his fellow countrymen, or what it was. But I thought Pierre Engvall actually had a pretty good game, more reminiscent to what he was doing a year ago, and was rewarded with a goal because of it as well. And obviously, Jordy Ben scoring the game winner. Still had 21 giveaways though, Dave. Like clearly, you can get away with 21 giveaways against Vancouver most of the time, but a playoff team, you're not going to get away with that. Like that still does need to be cleaned up. They've got to get much more crisp and cleaner in a lot of what they're doing. I think that's has to happen. Has to happen. All right. Why don't we take another quick break here, and then when we get back, we can talk a little bit about the Hall of Fame class that's going into it tonight. They're going to be inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. We'll talk about that and more in a moment. But first, let me tell you about one of today's show sponsors. And that's betonline.net. It's your number one source for sports betting information, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for your professional and amateur league out there, from hockey to football to basketball, soccer, and more. We've got it all on betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at betonline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet Online, it's where the game starts. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti, my co-host. Thank you so much if it's your first time checking us out. Hopefully you're enjoying the show. If you are a loyal and everyday viewer of the show, you might not be a subscriber because we got low subscriber numbers. Like the people who watch our videos every day don't always subscribe. Go ahead, subscribe. Then you don't got to go look for the video. We got videos coming out every day, Monday through Friday, all Leafs all the time. If you are a true member of Leafs Nation, got to be a member of the Locked On Leafs family. Go check out the podcast. Also, the Discord. Lots of people were asking about the Discord. We talked about it last time. We'll leave that in the podcast description below as well. And also on the iTunes and wherever you get your podcast. It'll be in the description there as well, so you can join the Discord family. All right, big weekend in Toronto, obviously, with the Maple Leafs playing back-to-back games, getting a couple of big games under their belt, but also it was Hall of Fame weekend, and just kind of amped up everything for what this weekend was. So going into the Hall of Fame tonight is the ceremonies. It'll be Roberto Luongo, Daniel and Henrik Sedin, Danny Alfredson, Herb Carnegie, and Riikka Salonen are the members going into the Hockey Hall of Fame tonight. I'm going to go and assume that if I asked you which one you have the most / fondest memories of, Daniel Alfredson would be the name that comes to mind for you. Would I be correct with that one, Dave?
1,000%. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you remember most about Daniel Alfredson? I think I know the answer, but I want to hear it from your mouth.
Oh, I mean, the hit on Darcy Tucker, I remember that memory fondly. The line with him, Danny Heatley, and Jason Spezza that one year that they
were good
by storm. Obviously him mocking Matt Sundin.
That's the one I thought you were gonna go with. The fake stick toss.
I got so many, but like you as Leafs fan, growing up watching Leafs, you see Daniel Alfredson and like he was public enemy number one. And he played that role perfectly for the Senators. I know some people were questioning whether he should be in the Hall of Fame. And I personally, I'm like, you know what? Like, we're making it like so hard, like the qualifications to get into the Hall of Fame. Like, yeah, it's an important place. You want to make sure the right people getting in, but you got to recognize people for what they did. Daniel Alfredson was, he led the Senators, during a time where the franchise was just getting themselves on the right, trying to get themselves, a foot in that hockey market. He was the leader. He brought that team to a Stanley Cup final, in unexpected times. Right, he wanted to stay there his whole career. Ottawa was his home, and he was a good player. Like, that's the other thing too. Like, wasn't the best player in the league, but he was really good. And I brought up that Heatley Spezza line. Like, that was one of the better lines in the league. They were dumbing the Leafs. I just remember not wanting to watch a Leafs game against the Senators because it was like an 8-2 loss for the Leafs. Dominic Hasek was in net. Like, those were a good Senators team. And I thought they were going to win the cup that year that they played against Anaheim.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was going to be their year. So, like, to say that, because he didn't win a cup, he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. He still won an Olympic gold medal. He has
funny.
Career.
He did win the Olympic gold. Not a single member of this Hall of Fame class has a Stanley Cup under their belt. Not one.
No, but they all have a gold medal, and I think that's important. It's the Hockey Hall of Fame. They have won something in their career, and I hate that argument for that reason.
I agree.
But, I mean, look, Luongo and the Sedin twins also went to a cup final. They also had probably the toughest road to a cup final throughout their years in the Western Conference when they had teams like LA and Chicago,
San Jose.
Yeah, like that was not an easy feat for them. And, like, I remember when they finally made it to the cup final, they beat Chicago, and like how big of a deal that was. Because
they slayed the dragon, right? Alex Burrows slayed the dragon.
Yeah, exactly. And like the Sedins and Luongo weren't passengers, right? They were like front and center of those teams. We know Luongo, would Canada have won that gold medal if they didn't make the goaltending change from Brodeur to Luongo?
I don't think so, because Brodeur wasn't playing his best hockey at that point in his career, and Luongo was. Like, that was the year Luongo won everything. Like, everything. William Jennings, best. Like, actually, I don't know if he didn't win the Vezina. He was a finalist for the Vezina, but he won like so many different awards and went all the way to the Stanley Cup final. Won Olympic gold in his own backyard, on home ice in Vancouver, the same arena that he had gone to the Cup final. A lot of good stuff happened for Luongo. He was playing his best hockey at that time in his career. But, like, when it comes to Luongo, like, this dude was just an ox. There was like a 4-year stretch where he played like 72, 73, 74 games. Like, legitimately 4 years in the mid 2000s where this guy played 70 plus games back to back to back to back. That's unheard of in today's hockey. Unfreaking heard of. The dude was just an ox, a workhorse. He retires as playing the second most games in NHL history as a goaltender. I think he's third or fourth in shutouts. Like, the guy was just an absolute beauty of a goaltender and one of the funniest people in hockey. His Twitter game is always unreal. I went back and looked at a couple of those like TSN skits that they had done too. They're really well done, and he's always. What's that?
Remember him and Corey Schneider, like the 1A, 1B, like
There's one. Go check it out on YouTube. It's called The Intern.
Yes,
where he's Jamie Noodles McLennan's intern. It's so funny, so funny. But yeah, so he clearly very deserving of being Hall of Famer. He's like a top 10 goalie all time, like, in my opinion. So he certainly should go in the class. The Sedins too. I think the story of the Sedins gets them in the Hall of Fame and pushes them to first ballot territory, because there was a lot of speculation about whether or not they were first ballot, whether Daniel Sedin more so was like a first ballot guy. And I think the story of them being twins coming into the NHL together, just the wild trade to even allow Vancouver to select both of those guys there still needs to be a 30 for 30 for that, to get them here, for them to blow up and become superstars. They both won an Art Ross. Daniel won at Ted Lindsay. Henrik won an MVP. There's just so many personal accolades that they were able to get, and then they also did have the Olympic golds and made it to a cup final as well. And legitimately pioneers of the shot pass. Pioneers, not pioneers, but like they were the cycle kings. And go look at how the NHL is played today. Like a lot of what is going on and what they're doing is cycle game, and there's a lot of like high tip shot passes too, right? That they made famous. So, I think the Sedins were just incredible players. So glad that they get to go in together. It was unfortunate that Henrik was not there Friday. I don't know if he came in on Saturday or when he came in. He will be there tonight, but wasn't there to celebrate at the Hall of Fame game itself on Saturday or on Friday due to COVID issues. And then Herb Carnegie getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. That's outstanding. That's amazing. And Riikka Salonen, the Finnish women's player, will also be getting inducted into the Hall of Fame tonight. So we got terrific people who will be going into the Hall of Fame tonight. Will be joining the greats to ever play. So it'll be really cool to watch that tonight. And I'm excited for Luongo's speech. In particular, Louis' speech is something that I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on tonight for sure. All right, Dave, let's leave it there for today. That'll do it for the podcast. And to thank everyone for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcast platforms. Receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mke_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti. We'll be back with another episode tomorrow. We got another game against the Pittsburgh Penguins to tee up for you guys. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.